You're about to watch one of the most influential thinkers of the 21st century, the man who virtually founded the personal development and self-help industry, and in the process, transformed our understanding of the human mind. His name is Richard Bandler. As the co-creator of Neuro-Linguistic Programming, or NLP, he's improved the lives of millions across the world through his seminars and self-help products. His works have been translated into over 20 languages, and his books, CDs and DVDs regularly top the self-help charts.
NLP is about getting the best procedure from the people who have succeeded the best at any task and teaching other people to do it. It's about having lessons that tell you how to design the inside of your head just like you would design the inside of a room.
Dr. Bandler personally trained to NLP Master Trainer level the internationally acclaimed lifestyle guru Paul McKenna. And motivational powerhouse Anthony Robbins freely acknowledges that NLP has influenced his own work.
I think the tools I've created are evolutionary in nature. We've never had a way to think about how we think. And being trained primarily as a physicist taught me to think in terms of how things work in systems. I used to design compiler systems, and that technology of teaching machines to do what humans did got me the idea that we could teach humans to do what other humans did by looking at the process, not the content.
Thanks to Dr. Bandler's mind training techniques, therapists, athletes, business people, writers, artists, musicians, teachers, entrepreneurs, negotiators, politicians, and countless others have become more successful and more effective at what they do. NLP has even inspired and been featured in TV hit series. Through NLP, millions have become assured and more self-confident, fostering a positive outlook on life that's freed them to achieve their goals and fulfill their ambitions. And because Richard Bandler teaches others the art and science of excellence, celebrities who excel at what they do are happy to work alongside him.
What I do is I teach people to think differently. You think differently, you feel differently, therefore what you can do expands.
Whether you want to become a master in communication, reach the pinnacle in your powers of persuasion with techniques that will leave everyone winners, or simply overcome a phobia and gain more confidence, watch now and understand how you can change your life forever with Richard Bandler and NLP. Chris Ellison's acting career has spanned over 35 years. He started as a theatre stage manager and went on to act in well-known series such as The Sweeney. His best-known and most loved role was playing DCI Frank Burnside in the ITV police series The Bill.
I've been in this business a long, long time. Actually, nearly 40 years, to be truthful, which is a bit scary. But I've mostly worked on television. I started in the theatre, as most actors in this country do. When I was at art school, I used to go work in stage management in theatres and stuff like that as a part-time job. And then one day I fancied it, and I thought, oh, I'd like to have a go at this. So I did. I made decisions about casting and things like that if I didn't want to do something, then I wouldn't do it. I think I was always quite brave in that way. You have to be able to take rejection. You'll have to learn how to take rejection, because you will be rejected. You will sit there and go, you know, I mean, it's the famous story, how many actors does it take to change a light bulb? It was 27. It's one to change the bulb and the other 26 to sit there and say, that should be me up there.
A group of aspiring actors have come to meet Chris and master his techniques for success, as well as perform in front of him.
I'm looking forward to meeting a professional actor with so many years' experience. Obviously, you've heard of Chris from The Bill and whatnot. Yes, it's going to be a really good day, and seeing how NLP can analyse and break down the way a professional actor might present themselves in interview circumstances.
It just seems like a really interesting kind of way in, especially when you know someone or heard of someone and seen people like Chris, kind of an experienced actor, to actually see the way they work.
Hello guys, I'm Dr. Richard Bandler. Would you take a seat over here? I'd like to tell you what we're up to today. When you're thinking about your future and your desires and your hopes and your dreams, you want to have big pictures that are clear so that they propel you and motivate you. You want to be able to have them clear enough that you can move backwards and build steps from them. If you're an actor, you want to have that script huge in your mind so it's easy to read. It depends upon what you're doing, whether you have big pictures or whether the pictures are close or far away, whether they're three-dimensional. NLP is about getting the best procedure from the people who have succeeded the best at any task and teaching other people to do it. You're going to get a chance to meet Chris Ellison, and who's been an actor for a very long time. He's successful. He's also an artist, done lots of good things. It's going to be a chance for you to not only ask him some questions, but also I'm going to pry into his mind and see if we can pull out some of the things that make him both successful and talented. It's sort of the secret of his success. Because if you can listen to him and learn to do some of the things he does in his mind, in your mind, it's going to be something that will accelerate your career. No matter whether you go to acting school or what parts you play, the way in which he plans them and thinks about them, the way in which he motivates himself so he continually improves his craft. And so he goes up against the great obstacles that life get in the way. Every successful entrepreneur, businessman, artist, musician, athlete becomes so because in the face of great difficulty, they become more motivated. And everybody does it a little differently. And if you learn to do it like several different people, you'll develop a style of your own faster. And the name of that is progress. Hello, Chris.
Richard.
Dr. Richard Bandler. And,
Nice to meet you.
And these young people are here to learn a little bit from you today, so...
Hopefully.
Actually, they're here to learn a lot. I kind of understated it. So why don't we go downstairs and get started? Okay, Chris, what I'm going to try to do today is see if I can pull out of you some of the secrets of what make you a talented person. For years now, I've been somebody who has studied successful people. And being an actor, there are certain things, if you're a good actor, and I know that you are because I've seen you, there are certain things that you have to be able to do. There's some that are big, like you have to be a highly motivated person, because there's a lot you have to deal with in that profession over time. I'm sure you've had ups and downs, and some things were harder and some things are easy, but all these years you've kept going and you've made yourself a success. And whether somebody's running restaurants or whether they're a nuclear physicist, being able to be self-initiated is a big thing. I'm going to start with smaller things, but the question I have is at some point in time, you had to decide that this is something that you could do. Because you could have looked at people being actors and thought, Jesus, I could never do that, or I wouldn't do that. For example, there are some things that I'm just not willing to do. I watched a TV show where there's a guy that grabs snakes real quick. And I look at that and go, nah, I don't think so. So can you go back in your memory and tell me what prompted you to do this?
When I worked in stage management in theatre, which I did to earn money, extra money, I then was watching people on stage, and then I was given the opportunity to go on stage, and I thought I could really do this, and I thought it was quite easy at first. I thought this is really good fun.
Okay,
that's when I thought
when you were given the chance to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, did you think of it as something that you could do?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, and
Yes.
when you thought of it as something you could do as opposed to something you wouldn't do, because you, like lots of people, get jobs around what they end up doing. Sometimes chefs started out working in the kitchen, and race car drivers start out on a bicycle. I mean, there's all kinds of things like that. But at some point in time, when they offered you this, did it ever dawn on you before that you were going to do it?
No, not really. No. I sort of toyed with it, but not. Wasn't so. It was a bit of a imaginary thing, really.
Okay, so
rather than a reality. But then
Okay.
when I got into the reality of it, it became, oh, I really could do this.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this. When you say that things are, that you can imagine, because you could imagine a whole lot of things, probably have in your life, okay, and you look at things and you say, I can really do this, those, number one, are two different voices that you talk to yourself. One is obviously much more confident than the other. And if you imagine yourself doing something, like if you were to imagine stepping in the ring with Ricky Hatton, right, you can imagine that, but probably aren't likely to do it.
Not without a gun.
Not without a gun. Okay. Probably when you make up that picture, it's in a different place in your mind, isn't it?
Stepping in the ring with Ricky Hatton.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's way out there.
That's way out in the distance.
Way out there.
Okay.
In
So
impossible land.
yeah, just take your finger like this and think about one of the things that you did and how you absolutely knew you could do it.
Oh, well, definitely the part of Burnside in the bill.
Right.
When I first got that, I thought, this is me.
Yeah. And when you make this gesture, it's like your feelings come up from here and they go out and they spin. So every time
it's just, you could envelop it. Yeah. I was actually offered the bill when it first started. And I was offered a part I didn't want. So I turned it down. Because I knew there was only one really good part in it, which was the detective inspector, the DI, because everything stemmed from him, and he was the kind of motivator, the way it was written then, and everything, he was the sounding board for everybody. He was the driver. I thought, that's the part you've got to have. So I waited 4 years, and then they gave me that part.
Every great musician I've ever interviewed, every great artist tells me, they go, well, I was really stuck doing the same kind of thing, and I just went, I can do better than this. And they get this thing where I'm not going to get stuck in this rut. I'm going to improve. I'm going to step outside the box and do something wonderful. Okay, let me ask you, how big is it when you see the character? Is it life size or is it on a small screen in your head?
It's on a screen.
It's on a screen. And while you're
Sometimes it's on a screen.
Yeah, and while you're adjusting the character, do you run through different combinations, give it a different tone of voice, have it walk a different way?
Yeah, I can usually hear it. I can hear the character straight away. Yeah, I mean, it may not sound like that when I speak it, but I hear a voice in my head.
Okay, and so when you see the character and you hear it talking, and then do you try to match it on the outside?
You try to match it verbally yourself. I mean, you try to match it as you think in your head. Unfortunately, what we think we sound like, we don't sound like. I've found. I've often found that in a character, I think, that's wrong. When I've looked at it on screen and the way I thought I was playing it, it's totally different. And I find it very, quite upsetting, actually. Because you feel like you've been giving one performance, and when you see it, it's something completely different.
Having explored his reasons for becoming an actor, Chris now gets the chance to watch drama student Paul perform, and with Richard's help, they hope to walk away with an insight into how to be a success in their own acting careers.
So I'm standing in front of the class, and I read out the title of my project. Osama, the hero. And I'm telling them, I'm telling them of a boy, as a young man, 22 years of age, rejecting his family's vast personal fortune of $3 billion to go off into the mountains of Afghanistan and fight the communists.
I thought it was absolutely brilliant. I really enjoyed it. It got me, completely helped me, totally. The only thing I would ever say, and it's just something that might help, it's always I always think it's a trick really, but before you start, don't get your audience first, so that you look at them first, then deliver the line. So instead of coming up and going, it's about a hero, just come up and go, it's about a hero. Then you just give them that beat to take you in first, and then you've got them. I mean, you've got them anyway, but it's just a little tip. Drama school is very important, and I know it's impossible to get on in this business now without going to drama school now, because I know it's a different world that we live in. And I didn't learn any of it, so I've probably kept all my bad habits throughout my entire career, because nobody's ever told me, because you don't get told, because they just let you get on with it, and you just sort of think, oh, that didn't work very well, I wonder why, but there's nobody there to tell you. So you kind of do it, practice, you just do it by constantly doing it, you learn. That's how I did it anyway.
Now it's the chance for another student, Debbie Brennan, to perform, and get some valuable pointers from Chris.
You don't think. You put that mouth of yours into Mega Drive and off you go. I'm dying. And I wish I wasn't. I wish it wasn't me. I wish it was you. That shocked you, hasn't it? You're gonna die. Oh yeah, everybody's gonna die, but the difference is I'm gonna die a lot sooner.
I thought it was fantastic. I thought the writing was fantastic. I thought you were fantastic. It's just thinking it's so nice to see the two pieces that I've seen today. Is coming from the commercial side more than anything of the business. To see writing like that, and that there is drama like that around, there's modern drama. But it shows you how ignorant I am, because I didn't know either of the pieces. And they were an absolute. They were so uplifting because they were so truthful. And truth is something that's very hard to find in drama. And I think the way you presented it and everything was extreme. Brought all that truth and that reality, which is great. There's only one thing, because it really annoys me, and I never say it, but I can now, because you can never say something when you think another actor's saying the line wrong, because they always say, you can't tell him. I know, but it's really annoying me. Is when you say, you thought, you say, I think it should be, you thought. Nah, it's your trouble. You don't think. And I think the emphasis is on don't. You don't think. That's what your trouble is. And that's also just going back a little bit to what I said of take it's your time. You can just you can afford to take that. Take those gaps. Take those, because it'll hold. It'll all hold.
See, if you hear a certain voice of a character inside your head, and then you attempt to match it, whether or not it sounds that way on the show, it's part of how you motivate yourself to do things like learn the lines. You went through life experiences and learned, and like you said, it was just luck. And I'm hoping for these guys here, it's not just luck.
No, I'm sure.
That something triggers in their mind before they start memorizing. Because if the people who go to drama school and they give you a script and they go, memorize this, and probably some of the kids have a really tough study and they memorize it, and they'll think they need a photographic memory, but they make the letters really small. So therefore, when they're acting, they'll be squinting a lot.
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean, yeah.
Whereas you naturally made letters that are this big, so a sentence in your head is like this. You have a built-in teleprompter.
I also have a thing from the top of the page to the bottom of the page. I can geographically see from you get a script and you read it, and then you geographically know where a line is placed, or a speech. So you know that speech is a third of the way down the page. That line comes just at the bottom of the page as you turn over. That line's at the top of the page. So you actually can, although you're not doing it consciously, you can subconsciously read your script as you're acting, if you know what I mean.
Have you ever been offered a role and then halfway through, having committed to it, found yourself in conflict with any moral or beliefs that you may have? And if so, how did you deal with them?
I've never been morally challenged. I mean, I've played some appalling characters. I mean, very corrupt police officers, racists, that sort of thing. But then I don't feel I'm morally challenged on that score, because I was playing a part, and they were good parts. So I was doing nothing against my morals by playing that part, because they were, blatantly unpleasant characters anyway. So they weren't, you weren't portraying them as righteous characters saying horrible things.
Do you think that with a disciplined drama school training there can be a danger it can take away from raw talent and create a technical actor?
I think drama schools provide a massive, they're very important, and every young actor has to go to drama school now. There's no two ways about it. I mean, that's the way it is, and that's the way. So you take what you can from it, I think, but every person should be careful not to let them take away your individuality as an actor. You don't want to end up acting by numbers or Because I mean, every person. I mean, you're a fine example of it. You have a very individual style, a very individual personality, and I'm sure that you'll keep that. I'm sure you're strong enough to keep that anyway. But you'll take what you can from the drama school.
When it comes to directing your life, you're the director. And if you're going to be an artist, any kind of artist, you have to be a lot like him, to make your own standards and keep raising them. And the sky is the limit. You're the one that gets to paint the portrait. That's what he's done, and it's worked for him. Because remember, the garden of your creativity is the way you think about things. And if your pictures are too small, you'll never have big involvement. You make big, giant pictures in your head, you make your inside world dynamic, then your affect on the outside will be more dynamic.
It was a really great day, meeting Chris, meeting Richard, seeing the way Richard can work with an individual, picking up his prose and what makes him the actor that he is today.
And it was also interesting seeing Richard kind of recognise the qualities to Chris, his strengths, his weaknesses, and how they can benefit him as an actor.
I did really enjoy the day, actually, especially being around people who have been out there in the business and seeing what they can do.
So it was really interesting learning an experienced actor and what kind of techniques they've developed over the years. I mean, Chris hasn't been to a drama school, he's just done it through experience, which is very different to a lot of people I've met before.
Well, obviously having self-confidence, that would be your first strategy, because otherwise you will not succeed. You have to have a certain amount of self-confidence, which I will not confuse with arrogance, because they're two different things. If you're just going in there on the off chance of becoming famous, or you're going to overnight success, I mean, forget it. It's not the X factor. It's hard work. It's a craft. It has some terrible, terrible times ahead for you, being out of work, feeling rejection. I mean, rejection's one of the things that actors have to learn to take.
If the wheels come off your vehicle, you don't never buy a car again. You don't never drive again. You go around to the trunk, you pull out the spare tire, you put it on there, and then you go back and you remember where you were going. And if your car is completely in the ditch, then you take a frickin' taxi cab and you get there. Because the important part is where you were going.
It's not for the faint-hearted, believe you me. And people think it's an easy way of life. I can assure you it's not. And it's very hard work. I mean, when you're making a TV series or whatever, you work extremely long hours and you work very hard. So people who think that it's going to be fun don't.
You have to be able to see yourself being successful and strive for it in every domain in life. And you have to have a procedure. There's a different procedure to spell than there is to multiply, than there is to add, than there is to do algebra. And if we get these learning strategies, which is what we call them in NLP, you can teach people art and music very, very quickly. I hypnotize people and install an NLP strategy, and 20 minutes later they're painting when they believe their whole life they can't paint. Because I give them the strategy that's used by a successful artist. There's some real things you can learn here, and if you learn them when you're young, rather than when you're my age, they'll be a lot more useful. Here's somebody who, as much as he says he's lazy, I looked at his resume. He's anything but lazy. He's done all kinds of things. And obviously he has pretty high standards about what he does, enough that he can disappoint himself. But it is a fact that when he saw something that really moved him, if you watched his arms move like this, that he doesn't just have little feelings, he has great big feelings. And part of what puts emotion behind what an actor does, what any great public speaker does, by the way, because I teach big public speaking courses, one of the hardest things is to get people to take their little feared, scared feelings and spin them in the opposite direction. His emotions went way out in front of him, all the way to the pictures in his head. And if you design your character and you make sure it's in your own tone of voice, and you make sure that what you hear inside your mind moves you, and you have those great big emotions, and you spin them, that you'll be one of these people that strives for perfection. And if you want to be a successful person, Yeah, it's not just about what you do on the outside. It starts with what you do on the inside. You have to redesign the inside of your head. You know, when we were young, him and me, our TV sets were little tiny things. You've grown up with these big plasma screens, so you should be thinking of putting bigger pictures inside your head. Start out with great big ones and adjust them so that it impacts you more. And we can learn lessons from him. He came right out and said, you know, doing art got him to look closer. And it also got him to know how to adjust images, both on paper, but also in his head. And somebody who can look up and see where the lines are in his mind of what he's memorized, and they're not blurry. He doesn't have to look at them, but they're there if he needs them. It's because he's learned to do this. He practiced it when he was young without thinking about it, and ultimately it becomes automatic. For you guys at first to take your script and put the words up may seem awkward, but if you do it on purpose for a little time, it'll become as unconscious as it is in Chris, and therefore you'll become better at what you do. See, each person that we can go and extract a little talent from and learn while we're young means that you don't have to give up. Like if you go to school, they may want every actor to come out the same, and that's not what we need. We need everybody to come out as a better representation of themselves than they can be. And if we learn a little bit from 20 different actors, then we put it all together and each of the students will get a better generation. And this stuff about putting words in your mind and on purpose a certain size and having a big picture that you can adjust and changing the tone of voice inside your head, the name of that's called thinking. And if you think on purpose, you'll be a more purposeful person. And I think Chris has been a perfect example of how important that is. And I hope you guys enjoyed yourself and keep on learning.